For decades, research has told us what many early childhood educators already know. Young children learn through play, through exploration, through creativity. When children play, they aren't just passing time. They're solving problems, testing ideas, making sense of the world around them. Creativity is not an extra in early childhood. It's a core part of how children learn, grow, and communicate. When typically developing preschoolers use materials in unexpected ways, we celebrate it. We call it imagination. We call it learning. But that isn't always true for every child. In early childhood special education, creativity often meets structure, support, accountability, good intentions. And somewhere in that space, creativity can begin to narrow, not because children lack it, but because the systems around them shape how it's allowed to show up. This story is about creativity, about play, and about leadership, and the conditions we create for what's possible.
Following the child's lead is becoming more and more the term I'm hearing, the term that's being used, and then which then is changing how, when you walk into a classroom, how you see that child in that moment.
Well, tying into play is, going to be how they're going to be able to show that creativity. I definitely think it is one of, if not the most important part of, developing their brains at that age, but also creating lifelong learners.
Like there's that inclusive aspect so that like everybody's able to be there. Like there's no right or wrong way to do it or to participate with the materials, engage with the materials. A student in a wheelchair can do it, and a student, that is blind or visually impaired or something like that, that they're able to explore and engage with whatever is there.
And I do play-based evaluations with all the preschoolers that I evaluate. And so I feel like I'm looking at how creative their play is, which can say a lot about their cognitive development and their social emotional development.
In early childhood education, we consistently say we support and value creativity. We recognize that young children learn through play and exploration and imagination. Creativity isn't considered an extra. It's foundational to how children make sense of the world. Across early childhood systems, creativity is embedded in our language and our standards.
One of my favorite parts about kindergarten is how flexible their thinking is.
I think open-ended materials, risk-taking in play, children being able to combine, or children coming up with ideas or combining ideas that like an adult would never script.
Like, I love wrong answers because a lot of times the wrong answers are the ones where I see, okay, you're on the right track, but you're not quite there, but you're being creative in your thinking.
With that, and in symbolic play, like using toys or objects to represent something else. So I see a lot of that too, which can be a good predictor and indicator of cognitive development. I feel like the children that do have stronger cognitive skills are more creative in their play.
Each other. So I see a lot in early childhood where one student's creativity will inspire others, whether it's joining in a game, whether it's adding something to something that they're writing. And I find that when they work together for things like that, it keeps building and building and building.
I think there's a huge difference between how people see typically developing kids interact with materials, come up with a game.
I feel like I see a lot of children that are identified that have a goal, maybe that's for like functional play. And I understand the intent behind that goal. It's trying to teach children to use objects appropriately, but that really can take away from creativity and engagement during therapy.
Students with IEPs or disabilities, they have to do it inside the box. Scripted play, very routine play, that like out of the box free thinking, creativity thinking is like just squashed.
Trying to correct, trying to pull it back to, like, okay, what's realistic? What's real life? What does this actually do?
A kiddo that like has autism and loves the swing just as much, we're like, oh no, the swing is done. Like you've had too much time on it.
If you're constantly if a child is engaging in a toy in a way that isn't necessarily how the toy is intended to be used, but they're showing a lot of enjoyment and engaging with the toy. And, I guess what I'm trying to say is I hate to see that creativity being taken away from the child just to teach them how to use a toy in an appropriate way.
Show them what the adult expected the child to do, whether it's hand over hand or actually doing it for them, instead of just letting the child respond.
Like stimming with their play. Like they love to do things, line them up in a certain way, or like stack them a certain way, or look at it a certain way, that we don't allow that to continue. But
children with disabilities deserve access to rigorous learning, but rigor in early childhood does not mean rigidity.
Data on the specific goals.
Yeah, we do DIBELS.
Progress monitoring.
Well, they need to be reading, they need to be writing.
Measurable output.
Standardized and norm reference.
We do iReady 3 times a year.
Teachers ask a lot of questions instead of making a lot of comments.
Pressure travels through people.
Standardized testing.
We do the unit tests for reading.
Federal law.
Compliance.
Meeting this standard, meeting this TSG goal.
I don't see a lot of teachers sitting on the floor and like playing with kids.
Like there's the math quizzes.
Pressure from the top.
The math tests.
Creativity can become collateral damage.
You have leaders that truly like buy in to it and are there to help foster and support and kind of understand everything. Like they kind of let you be.
The way leadership understands developmental appropriateness determines whether policy protects play or pressures performance.
That's where it needs to start. It needs to start from the top, about even introducing the topic, making that a topic of programming, making that a topic of planning.
I have a fantastic relationship with my administration. So I do feel like I have more flexibility to be able to be creative in the ways that I'm covering the things.
Protecting space for teachers and children to be creative is a leadership responsibility.
Understanding that, when you're looking at a classroom, what is actually happening. And I think that's a big thing for the leadership at the top. I will invite people in. I have signs all around the classroom that's, it's like I'm looking at my sensory center. I'm observing, weighing, measuring, learning about capacity. So, signs that have the academics that are along with it.
Definitely, I feel like a lot of education of, those higher ups, those people that don't always understand, to be like, well, yes, I'm doing exactly what you wanted me to do. Here's our CK curriculum. Here's our standard. Here's how it's being met without me having to sit there and like drill and like, here's the flashcard of this animal. What is it? And what is this? And what is this? They had exposure to more animals than the curriculum was asking for because we implemented it in different ways. And, when we went out on the playground, I started a game of, animal walks in like this area, like, let's try this. And the more the adults, I feel like, get involved, the more the kids are buying in. Your typicals, your neurodivergent, they're seeing stuff that's going on and going, wait, what is happening over there? And I want to be involved in some way.
The way we interpret expectations shapes what children experience.
But if we're having fun, I throw circle time out the window. If a kid's really involved in something, if they're really involved in their play, I jump into their play versus pulling them out and making them meet my agenda for the day or what, we needed to have done for the day.
To continue to advocate for it, I think, and model it like to our leaders. And, I continue to try to be creative in my work and promote that in the teachers that I work with and in my evaluation process and in the families that I work with, and just continue to create to model my creative work and the importance of creativity for everyone I work with. So yeah, that's very important.
I think trusting, using your professional judgment and trusting, the people around you, the people you're working with.
I feel like it looks like allowing teachers or professionals to make decisions with the teachers or the leaders not really involved in some of the planning or the curriculum or the activities. I do feel
good leadership that allows for autonomy and allows for creativity really can help us serve each child's unique needs, which is the goal, right? I think it's my goal, at least.
Being able to tolerate messy things, that like it's not going to go perfect. It's not going to be the way it's written down black and white, to kind of being able to accept unpredictability, that like it's not always going to go the way we think it's going to go and how it's going to go.
So I think the first thing is to put ourselves in the kids' shoes, to stop and to take a step back, to remember what it's like to be a child, and to remember that children are still children.
But it is a lot of education. It's a lot of showing and proving that you're able to do this in a developmentally appropriate way, like we all say we're doing, without, to the letter of what people see as school. I think
we
sometimes
should initiate more conversations around play is probably what I should do, and really start driving that conversation with even some of my supports, or giving, and that's actually a really good point. Like even when I'm looking at a classroom and thinking, how can I support some communication opportunities, or give the teacher suggestions for some communication opportunities? Don't just look at circle time. Don't just look at snack time, but look at playtime and give them specific kind of things that they can support in those opportunities.
To just let them play how they want and engage with them in the way that they're playing with the toys to get that engagement. And that's how they can learn and develop. First is the engagement, then the teaching.
If we truly believe creativity is essential in early childhood, then leadership has to reflect that belief. That means aligning expectations with how young children actually learn. It means recognizing that every mandate, every goal, and every assessment passes through human interpretation. Leadership determines whether those expectations expand possibility or quietly narrow it. When we trust development, we create space for exploration.
And just like accepting childhood for what it is, and being a kid, like, reminding yourself that like you're a kid. These are kids. They're only, in my age group, they're 2 years old to 5 years old. And some of them really developmentally are 10 months old.
Creativity is something that children bring with them, and yet the space it is given, the risks we allow, the time we protect, and the trust we extend is shaped by adult decisions. In early childhood education, we often talk about supporting children, but support can sometimes become control. Structure can sometimes narrow possibilities. When we look closely, the difference is rarely in the child. It's in the conditions surrounding them. Leadership is not only about programs, policies, or compliance. It is about what we protect and what we prioritize and what we permit. If we want creativity for children, we must examine creativity in ourselves.